standing by right now live, as she often does when we're lucky, is KT McFarland, national security analyst. You see her on Fox News. Hey, KT, good morning to you.
Good morning.
All right, so in the news this morning, there are many stories that talk about how the United States government is having a difficult time trying to decide which is the greatest threat. Is it ISIS or is it Al-Qaeda? And they say that this is not just an academic discussion, because what's at stake here is how they allocate their resources to fight each of them. So, what do you think about this? Is it an important debate discussion to have, or is this, just people doing a bunch of navel gazing?
In Washington, it always boils down to the money, right? Follow the money. They're both a problem. They're different. They present different threats. You would deal with them in different ways, but they're both a problem. I would say that the bigger problem that nobody's focusing on is, what if they get together? What if ISIS, because it now has territories, an Islamic State, makes peace with Al-Qaeda? Remember, ISIS grew out of Al-Qaeda. What if they somehow find their way to make peace with each other instead of competing with each other?
If they healed the family rift.
Yep.
Well, it's funny, KT, that you bring this up, because yesterday you had Barack Obama met with 20 Jewish leaders where he basically said that. He said, if we reject the idea that, if we reject this nuclear plan, you'll see more support for terrorism. You'll see Hezbollah rockets falling on Tel Aviv. Barack Obama said that, but is this the new tactic now? We're going to sit here and say, if you don't go for this Israel, you're going to cause yourself sudden death. So what do you want? More terror now or down the road?
Well, I think the president's he's got a weak deal. And so to make the case, he said, it's either my deal or war. And Israel, by the way, if this deal doesn't go through, it's going to be your fault, and I'm going to take it out on you. Iran's getting nukes because of this administration has so bungled it. And frankly, the previous administration bungled it. Iran is now getting nukes. Sooner or later, Iran gets nukes. The question is, does a rich Iran get nukes or a poor Iran get nukes? A rich Iran is one that we lift the sanctions. They have the windfall profit of the unfrozen assets. They have a lot of extra money. $100 billion of extra money to slosh around, not only to do things in Iran, fix their infrastructure, invest in their oil industry, but also money left over to fund Hezbollah and Hamas. I think whatever happens, deal, no deal, there is an intifada in Israel, Palestinians, within the next 12 months. Israel, the Iranians have already encouraged, if you read the statement, I read it in translation, that the Supreme Leader put out last week, a pamphlet of what the plan is, the 100 ways to destroy Israel. They've talked about now giving additional aid to Hezbollah and Hamas to attack Israel. And my concern of all this is, okay, so we've seen these intifadas before. The Palestinians lob rockets at Israel. Israel responds. The Palestinians use children and women as human shields. They run to the UN and say, see, the Israelis are murderers. They go after innocent civilians. The UN objects. There are lots of condemnations of Israel. But the United States has always had Israel's back at the United Nations and in other places. What if President Obama decides not to have Israel's back?
Yeah, just for those who are within the sound of our voice here at WMAL, you should know Senator Mark Warner is on the bubble about this. So, if you wanted to have some input, give him a call. Let him know how you feel about this.
Let me tell you that anybody who votes for this deal, people are going to take notice of it. And 3 years from now, if there's a nuclear arms race in the Middle East, if the United States breaks with Israel, if all the terrible things that people like me have predicted do come to pass, those people who voted for this deal are complicit.
All right, so new topic here. We got this debate.
Yeah, Fox News.
Fox News debate. It's going to be epic. It's going to be great. We have the big primetime thing, and then the kids' table at 5:00, and they're going to be talking, no doubt, at some point about national security. What do you, KT McFarland, national security expert, what do you want to hear from these candidates?
Well, you are so good to ask, because if you go to foxnews.com, within the hour, I will have an article up about what I am looking for in these debates. Look, most of these guys have all said, I'm like Reagan, I believe in peace through strength. Well, that's great, but, who's against peace? Who wants a weak America? And everybody loves Reagan. But Reagan always filled in the details. When I worked for Reagan, I saw firsthand how his policy to win the Cold War was comprehensive. It's a detailed plan to stress their economy to the breaking point at the same time as building up America's defenses. Now, I'm looking for these guys to flesh in the details Iran. They've all said they're against the Obama-Kerry deal, but what are they going to do instead? Lindsey Graham said, I'm going to bomb Iran, but there's some real problems with that. What if they respond, retaliate, rally around the flag? Others have said, I'm going to reimpose sanctions and undo the Iran deal the minute I'm in office. Okay, but by that time, a lot of American companies, and certainly foreign companies, will have already let contracts. Are you really going to try to close the Apple store in Tehran as you reimpose sanctions? I mean, I want to hear from these guys, if Iran gets nuclear weapons, what's your plan? Are you going to arm the allies in the Middle East? Are you going to reassure the allies in the Middle East so they don't go nuclear? What are you going to do with your relationship with Israel? What if Iran's supreme leader does do what he says he's going to do and attacks Israel? What does the United States do in response to that? So that's the Iran stuff. But I'm also looking at what's the deal with ISIS. I don't see that there is a plan.
All right.
Well, you've actually written a great thing that says too complicated to understand. You did a segment, too complicated to understand and too complicated to succeed. I hope you're right on that, KT. I really hope that that it is too complicated to succeed. And I think we'll hear some. ISIS will be mentioned at least 12 times tonight, I think, on those stages.
Right, and everybody will have a plan, and I'm going to work with the... But the problem is there is no joint Sunni Arab force that's gone up against ISIS. Mm-hmm. And we're fighting just enough. We're throwing just enough resources at it so that it doesn't fail on Obama's watch. It will fail immediately thereafter. And so what is then the next plan? Are we going to work with Iran to stop ISIS?
Right. All right, we're going to leave it there. KT McFarland, Fox News national security analyst, and we got a preview of her column. It'll be up any time now at foxnews.com. Thanks, KT.